Welcome back to Tightlining Maryland. Today what you're going to find out by watching this video is the #1 reason why you're not catching more fish when Euro nymphing. So today what we're going to demonstrate for you is the idea of just fishing one run. That's it. We're not going to have any gimmicks. We're not going to have any tricks. We're going to try to just let the film run as it may. I'll make some changes accordingly, but if you don't mind, I'd like to demonstrate for you what works and what doesn't work and kind of put that on film so that you can see the little differences. So let me show you. So just that you're familiar with what we're using today. Today I have a 10-foot-1 Diamondback Ideal Nymph series. I've done a video on this previously. I'll try to link it either into the video somewhere or down in the description, but inevitably I love this setup. It's really, really good for when I know I'm going to Euro nymph and Euro nymph only, although I can do a couple things on it. Okay, but inevitably today what we're going to do is we're going to nymph this run, and I have on here for a leader Pierre Sempi. It's 0.16 material in diameter with a little bit of a hot spot there at the end with a cider marker, and ultimately what we're going to do here is we're going to fish two different ways in this run. Number one, what we're going to do is we're going to fish the back side of this run where it's a little deeper with a double nymph rig. I've got on probably about 4.5 to maybe even 5 feet of tippet. The reason why we have that, and this is a big mistake that people make, is they don't judge the depth right or their weight right. So I don't have fast flows, so I don't need heavy flies. It is a little deep, especially in the back side of the run. So I'm going to compensate there with 2 flies. I've got a size 16 on the bottom, a Tasmanian devil, and I've got a size 18 on the top, which is a blowtorch perdigon. I'm going to fish my double nymph rig in the back where I've got approximately 2.5 to 3 feet of depth, just so that you have a framework for when you go out and work a run like this. You realistically want about 1.5 the depth. So let's just make this a nice easy number. If that's 3 feet out there, I need approximately 4.5 feet of depth of total tippet. So on here, I have just about that much. I've got somewhere between 4 to 4.5 feet in total. I'm running about 3 to 3.5 to my first fly, which is our tag. And then on the point, our anchor fly at the bottom, I've got my size 16. I'm going to go right into the back of this run and fish the back side of it so that you can see exactly what I mean with this double nymph rig. We're going to show you how we can pick off a fish or two in the back side where it's a little deeper with double flies and hitting 2 different columns. And then as we transition up the stream, I no longer need that depth, and although there's some things you can do to compensate, I'm going to switch to a single fly and fish this 1.5 to 2 feet of depth that's right out in front of us, and you'll see it on film just a little differently with a single nymph versus the back side with a double. So let me change the angle of this camera so you can see exactly what we're going to fish to start. Alrighty, here we go. So we're sliding into position, that way we can fish to some trout. Trout often like the darker kind of contours of the river where it goes from light to dark. The fall fish and the kind of chubs, they sit on this inner part. So here we go. We're casting out. I'm thinking in the first 5 to 10 drifts, we should be able to get some fish on film for you. We just had a bite, so we'll see if that'll stay consistent with the action. So flies are coming down. We're keeping consistent with our drift. We've got approximately the depth we need. We're running these just a little bit longer, seeing if they swing into the backside, if that picks up anything. We're going to move across into the better water now. Get a good drift in here. There we go. Nice little brownie. Hit on the front side of that drift. Just keep that head down. Then as soon as you're ready to net, slide them right over and get them in. So, you know, average size brown for here, they usually run about 6 to 8 inches. This one's about 6, but again, demonstrates a point where if you get your depth right, you get good consistent drifts, and you're putting it in water that ultimately is, you know, right for your flies and your tippet. I think that's the biggest mistake that people make, is they just don't know what to use. So given that, you know, I see that I've got, and it helps that, yes, I fished this river many times, I guide this river. It helps that I know that this run is 2.5 to 3 feet deep, but I could tell that even if I'd never been here before. So as I step out, I know when I see that, all right, that gives me a playbook. If I have 2.5 to 3 feet, I'll just round up to 3, make it nice and easy on me. I'm gonna fish more than likely when it's exceeding 2.5 to 3 feet, I'm going to fish a double fly setup here. And that took, you know, first drift and eat, and then probably third or fourth drift a catch there on camera for you. But all we needed there was the appropriate amount of tippet. We needed about 4 to 4.5 feet. First fly is going to be 2 to 2.5 feet, and that way we have something of what we call a tag, where it sits higher up in the water column. And then I've got my Tasmanian devil size 16, where it anchors and kind of brings our system down without dredging the bottom. If I was fishing 2 14s or even a 14-16, I'd be just too heavy. So as a result, we kind of picked the optimal amount of tippet, the optimal size of our beads, and went right to work. So we're going to see if we can't pick out any more here in this run before we finish it out and fish the top side, where we're going to go a little bit thinner and there he is, another one. A little bit thinner and a little bit lighter, but another fully, you know, healthy, eager brown, ready to eat. That guy also took the blowtorch Perdigon, and ultimately I think it's way less about the pattern than we make it out to be. Don't get me wrong, these blowtorch Perdigon flies have caught me a lot of fish. Blowtorches in general are a wonderful fly. I have them in the shop in case you want any, but we're going to release this brown. But the reason why I think that we're able to come out here, even though some tubers just came through just literally a couple minutes ago with their music blaring, they were out of their tubes making a bunch of noise, but the reason why I think we're so successful is not a testament to the flies per se, although they help. I think it's more so just the idea of, you know, we've got the exact right amount of depth to be able to get these flies down to these fish and kind of meet them on their terms. So we're gonna just make a couple more casts before we get to the head of the run, demonstrate, you know, kind of when you go a little bit lighter and in lower flows with less, you know, depth, what you need to do to make your change. But I still think we have some more fish in this run that we should try to unearth. Ooh, that felt like something, but came up short. Let's make another cast. Let's get it on that far side. That's a really good spot. You just have, you know, structure off to the side. You've got kind of not quite an undercut, but you have, you know, a bank there where fish can slide in and out. You've got overhang. You've got a foam line. It's just, I mean, unbelievably fishy over there. So we're just going to make maybe two to three more casts and then call it here. But, you know, I'll gladly take 2 to 3 fish in a run when you first step in and you're just kind of gauging, do you have the right amount of tippet and do you have the right amount of flies? So run out of real estate before we should be making changes. So let's make this one and maybe one more. Okay, last one. There we go. Drop them in, get contact, coming down, ticking the bottom ever so slightly, but not, you know, doing so heavily. Let them swing out. Okay, so that demonstrates the backside of the run. Let's show you what we do whenever we get to the head of a run and things kind of thin out a little bit and you have to make some changes or concessions based off of the water type you're fishing. Alrighty, so we're ready to fish our second part of the run. As mentioned, there's not going to be any tricks or gimmicks when it comes to, you know, fishing today. I just want you to see exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it, so that way you can kind of duplicate that when you head out. Because as I mentioned, I think this is realistically the #1 thing that, you know, kind of divides people on their success when they hit the water. So what I've done here, and I'll come up and show you real quick, is originally I had on 2 flies, okay? I've got my sighter right here, this pink line, all right? I've got my tippet ring, and yes, I do use a tippet ring. And then what I've got is my tippet right here, and I've got approximately 2 to 2.5 feet of tippet. It might be somewhere between 2.5, 3, but you're just trying to get approximate. You just want to be close. What I have on is a size 18 blowtorch Perdigon. I don't know how well you can see that. I'm going to try to put it so that way you get a better look on the camera. But this blowtorch Perdigon in a size 18, all Perdigon means is pellet in Spanish, so thank you Gus for your help with that. But these Perdigon style flies get down really quick. I'll show you what I cut off though, and I think that's the important thing to kind of document here. Look at how much tippet I just cut off from the previous rig, okay? This is the tippet I had. I've cut off 8 inches to where I tied in the Perdigon, so that was my original running line of the first piece of tippet. And I had additionally added on here, I had added into that a solid 18 to 20 inches with the tag hanging off right here. That's where originally I had my Perdigon fly and I had my Tasmanian Devil on the bottom. That's what was anchoring out my system, so I had the heavy fly on the bottom and I've got my lighter Perdigon on the tag up here. So I've cut off approximately 2.5 feet, you know, 24 to 30 inches of tippet. We're going to try to demonstrate how your weight in a shallower run, you need to kind of take some off, you need to make sure that your flies aren't too heavy, and you need to put yourself in a position that way you can, you know, catch some fish without being, you know, too weighted down and kind of plugged to the bottom. So here we go. Let's bring that blowtorch Perdigon down. See if we can't in this shallower water, you know, reach a brownie that's sitting in these riffles. There we go. So this is about our 3rd cast. Okay, let's try to hit this seam over here. Alrighty, so we made our change, and I still feel confident about the rig and the setup, but in our 10 to 15 drifts that we made over here, we didn't have any success with our single fly. Could have been, possibly the depth, but I felt pretty confident about that. The backside, we definitely needed that extra fly and extra tippet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head down just one more hole. We're gonna basically try to duplicate a very similar run where it's shallow. We just need a single fly to get through there, and we should be able to pick off a fish in there, again, demonstrating the importance of just the appropriate amount of tippet and the right selection of your bead and or size of fly. So let's head down and give this a shot in just one more spot. Alrighty, so what we did is we're ready to fish the back side of the run. It could again be that they want something suspended. So all we did was we took the original 2 feet of tippet that we had on. We added a tag that's going to be about 5 to 6 inches, and we added about 2 extra feet of tippet to help get it down. So we've put the Tasmanian Devil on the bottom as our point or our anchor, and now we have our blowtorch perdigon that we were using earlier on our tag. We're just going to fish the inside and work out to see if these fish want that fly in deeper water, suspended a little bit higher up, see if it's something where it's a depth thing and or a column thing that, it's just where they're hanging out in this water system. All right, keep working out, just make a couple casts and then move our feet. Okay. Just had a couple ticks, possibly takes. I think we're nicking the bottom, which is a good thing. We're not quite on it, but we're occasionally ticking it. Let this fly, there he is. I was gonna say, let that fly swing out, and that fly landed right in a brown trout's mouth, and he came off as we brought him to the surface. So let's see if we can't fool or convince one more, whether it's on our front part of our drift on the far side or possibly on the swing of the back, but it appears that the fish are looking up, and just need, again, a little bit of extra depth, not only to the water you're fishing, but in particular the area your flies are coming down through. Okay, work out. There he is. Little chub that grabbed on the backside there. So we went from a brownie to a chub, but again, depth was the issue. This one took the bottom fly of that Tasmanian Devil. There he goes. Alrighty, well that's gonna wrap it up for Tight Lining Maryland. Fun little session today. It was intended to kind of show you the differences in the style of water that you would fish and how many flies you would use, how much tippet you would use. These are common questions I get all the time, and you have to make changes throughout the seasons and throughout the day to day even. Like this water was 4 or 5 times the depth just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago in this river, and as a result I was fishing a lot of 2-fly setups, size 14s on both, and we needed that to get down, and we were having a boatload of success with it. But inevitably, as these flows started to drop and the fish have gotten pushed and concentrated into certain sections now, realistically I need less weight, I need less tippet, and that gives me my best chance for success, ultimately being the #1 reason why people struggle to catch as many fish as they should Euro nymphing. I know today we only put, I think, 3 on camera if you don't count the fall fish or chubs, but that's not bad given low water, midsummer, and having fished only 2 holes. I mean, I'd love to get a couple more, but inevitably I think that proves our point effectively enough that you can see the proof is in the pudding. So tight lines the next time you hit the streams, and thanks for tuning in.